everyone. Welcome to the brand new series, Let Me Ask You a Question. In this series, I'm going to ask a series of questions about things that I'm just curious about. And I don't really have the answers, tried to figure it out, can't figure it out. So let's get to it. Let me ask you a question. If safe sex is so important, why are we so okay with the rarity of condoms in the movies? Safe sex is definitely a hot topic. I cannot think of a single school year without the infamous sex education debate. One side vying for telling kids to use condoms if they choose to have sex, and others believing that even discussing the subject promotes promiscuity. The end result, some places kids are told to use condoms, in other places they are left completely in the dark. Let's take into consideration that the age they receive this knowledge also varies. That means young, malleable minds are receiving a wide spectrum of inconsistent information at different ages. To add to this, talking about condoms is completely stigmatized as an uncomfortable conversation. As grown-ups, I find we're more concerned with whether or not the kids should learn about using condoms than fucking anything else on the subject. School debate has become one of the issues that divides the population, and it makes us argue. I like to call these smokescreen issues. Anything tied into a smokescreen issue immediately becomes a taboo subject. Not safe for work has a vast reach these days. But let's get back to the youth. They are left to talk amongst themselves. There's no clear or consistent authority on the subject. If Mary and Johnny are cousins from two separate regions where they learn or don't learn the same thing, then it completely creates confusion. And let's go further. It must create some seriously dangerous situations in college when alcohol is thrown into the mix. Now, shall we consider a primary source of inspiration many confused folk turn to in shaping their views of the world? The motion picture experience. In our sexually ignorant North American culture, most of our exposure to sex comes from what we see on TV shows or movies. So many of these scenes are passionate, abrupt, and definitely look fun to try. Now to the haters, I realize porn is another valid source of sex knowledge. However, that tangent would completely overshadow the point of this video. So let me ask you another question. With the way these sex scenes are shot, how is it logistically possible to have a condom involved? I'm not exactly sure if its use is supposed to be implied, but more often than not, Buddy just sticks it in, she takes it eagerly, and voila, some cutscene or implied climax. Now let's be real, Buddy is busting one deep inside of her in a lot of these scenes. And oftentimes, these people have just met. And I don't care how cool it looks, it's not intelligent to ejaculate into a complete stranger. Now people tend to follow actions over words. At least when most risky behavior is displayed on TV, there is that cheesy "don't try this at home" warning. Now, I get that this may kill the vibe, but it's pretty ridiculous that this dangerous way of living is so highly advertised. To summarize, in a formal sense, we tell the teens a tale of how condoms are safe and should be used. We then ignore that lesson entirely, endorsing this depiction of reality that we choose to watch. And people not using condoms is not limited to the youth. In a lot of cases, grown folk who know better forego the use of rubbers far too often. I mean, consider it. The drunk versions of us are definitely not referencing the wise lessons that may or may not be taught in a classroom. They are craving those fantasy moments laced with such enticing appeal. So where are the condoms actually at? Based on who we are as North Americans, one would think that people would be whipping off Trojan rappers all over Netflix. It is the clear and healthy choice. And this shit is influential. Hollywood made smoking cool and then totally blackballed that shit somewhere over the course of my life. I googled on your behalf. It appears that comedy movies will occasionally bring them up. Knocked Up is a fantastic example of what happens when no condom is involved. But this isn't exactly a good role model. It's more of a cautionary tale than anything useful. Albeit you see the condom, it is never actually used. Take a look.
Do you have a condom?
I do.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Hurry up. Oh, what are you doing?
I almost got it. Just give me a second.
God, just do it already.
Okay.
Oh,
tried to find examples of condom use in movies. Outside of ridiculous antics in comedy movies, there really isn't much. Apparently, there's some scene in Love and Basketball, but I have yet to see this movie. Now, my girlfriend showed me this one scene in the show Queer as Folk, and the way Buddy was telling other Buddy to put the condom on in this firm, domineering way, it was fascinating, if not attractive in its own way. Now, if more writers employed this tactic, I bet more people would use protection, even when both the schools and, more importantly, the parents fail to teach their kids about safe sex. So we've established there's a clear mismatch between the formal and informal learning networks. Perhaps I'm absolutely terrible at research, but I had a lot of trouble finding actual data regarding condom use. I found all sorts of shit online talking about how nobody likes condoms. I mean, it's pretty safe to say that everyone agrees that sex feels better without a condom. And I mean, this is a worldwide phenomenon. Bill Gates discovered that a huge part of the lack of contraceptive use in Africa is simply that it just doesn't feel the same. And that's the same line drunk guys drop when pressuring for the bareback experience. So Mr. Gates offered a $100,000 grant back in 2013 to anyone who could present a viable option for a condom that enhances the sexual experience. And it looks like there are a couple of experimental options that are under development, but they're like 10 years away from testing. And that means a way longer time away from being on the market and available for our use. And this kind of makes sense. I mean, the last thing we need is some super condom that ultimately makes you sterile or shrivel or whichever the fuck scares you more. Another angle to this condom game is how fucking terrible the commercials are. I mean, I don't know if there's some unwritten rule where they have to be comedic, but holy crap, they are awful. There's no point in me showing you any or linking to them. YouTube has a plethora of examples. In fact, I tried hard and I could not find a serious condom commercial. Consistent data that shows that condoms are becoming less popular over time, but there is a general lack of statistics on rates of condom and who uses them and how successful they are. Every study I found has statistically insignificant sample sizes, and that blended in perfectly with the radically different results. A fun factoid: married women are more likely to use condoms than single ones. And one might think that the inverse would be true, but the article I read explained it that married women expect sex more, so they use a condom more. And that means women who don't expect to have sex are less likely to use one, or to phrase it differently, the people who probably need a condom the most are using them the least. I stumbled across a fascinating quote from a PDF published on the Planned Parenthood website. Catherine Dexter wrote, "Nevertheless, scientifically based information about condoms that was available on government health websites has either been taken down or replaced with politically driven, censored pages that emphasize abstinence and have an exaggerated focus on the potential risks of condom use. For example, the CDC website expunged any information showing that education about condoms does not result in increased or earlier sexual activity." I find this concerning. What I've learned through my time in customer service optimization is that younger people are far more inclined to jump on the internet and look into things on their own. I can only imagine the number of shy youth that feel there is no consistency in the information. What I'm trying to say is that this is some serious levels of mixed marketing. When young people see their role models engaging in risky behavior, they are more likely to forego responsible decisions. If we the people pressured mass media to demonstrate safe sex in an attractive way, it could actually work. Let's consider the anti-smoking campaigns. They work because all levels of life promote the same ideology. Smoking is harmful. If only the least interesting channels of a young person's life promote the use of condoms, school, it's not that surprising that their adult versions are more willing to take that risk, especially after experiencing the difference. If we really think safe sex is that important enough to debate it every year, then why are we so okay with the lack of condoms or information about condoms in our regular life, or how it's being taught to the youth? Why does nobody ask these questions? So if you like this video and want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Like the video, share it. Oh, and you may have noticed I make music. Click on one of the annotations to check out my projects. Until the next question.